Good afternoon. So in the last session, we have seen about vertebral column, and we have seen different types of vertebrae in the vertebral column. So they are actually cervical vertebrae. So the cervical vertebrae are located in the cervical region. Located in cervical region. Cervical region is neck region. Is located in the neck region. Then thoracic vertebrae. So these thoracic vertebrae are located in thorax region. Okay, and then coming the lumbar vertebrae. So these lumbar vertebrae are located in lumbar region. So yesterday I have shown you the regions. Okay, cervical, thorax, and lumbar region. Then we have is sacrum. So we know this sacrum is a fusion of five vertebrae, and it is only one. And then lastly we have is, so below the lumbar region is sacrum. So below the sacrum, the last part of the vertebral column is coccyx, and right. So that's we call it a tailbone. Fine. So now let's see about the functions of vertebral column. The functions of vertebral column. So coming to these functions of vertebral column, okay, the vertebral column actually protects spinal cord. It protects the spinal cord, okay, in its neural canal. I'll show you that picture now. So how it protects and how the spinal cord passes through the vertebral column. Then it also supports skull. It supports skull. Then okay, it also serves as a point of attachment. So it serves as a point of attachment. Serves as a point of attachment for ribs and okay, the muscles on back. Right, so these are the functions of a vertebral column. So now let's see the picture. So here is the picture of vertebral column. So here you can see this red colored portion is the red color portion is right, the cervical vertebrae. So you can see this is the cervical vertebrae, red in color, and then below that we have thoracic vertebrae. So here usually we name this cervical vertebrae as okay, C1, right, okay, C1, C2, C3, and so on. So that will be up to C7. Now coming to the thoracic vertebrae, so we give it like a T1. So in this case, okay, T1, T2, T3, and it goes up to T12. And coming to the lumbar vertebrae, we'll mention as L1, L2, and that goes up to L5. So that goes up to L5. Okay, so you can see here this is a cervical vertebrae, and below that, so this form the neck region. Okay, and if you see it from the top, this is how it looks like. And here is the vertebral foramen. So this is the vertebral foramen, okay, through which the spinal cord actually passes through. So you can see, and it has each vertebra has a body on which you find okay, intervertebral disc. So in this case we can see it from the lateral side, and here this blue color region is the intervertebral disc, and this is how the vertebrae are present one above the other, and that together forms the vertebral column. So here this region forms the thoracic, so you will see the same bending. Okay, so it's the same how we see this bending will be present in our body. So here below the cervical, thorax, then below the thorax you have lumbar, and then below the lumbar this portion is the coccyx, and here somewhere from the last portion it will be the tail, that is the coccyx. Okay, so here they have mentioned, so if you take one vertebra from the lumbar region, so this is how it looks like, and this is the vertebra if you take it from the thoracic region, this is how it looks like. Okay, and if you take a vertebra from the cervical region, this is how it looks like. Okay, so all will have this vertebral foramen, you can see, and through this the spinal cord passes, and okay, there will be slight gaps here through which actually the spinal nerves come out. Okay, so that I will show you in another picture. Right, you can see here in this picture the vertebrae. So you can see this is one, so second one, and this the third one, and you can see in between that, okay, so the presence of intervertebral disc, and you can see the spinal cord coming out of right, the vertebral column. So there will be a gap here. Okay, through that these spinal nerves come out. Right, so this is the spinal cord passing through the vertebral foramen, or the neural canal, so where I mentioned here, so neural canal. And here one more point on this intervertebral disc. So this intervertebral disc is a fibrocartilaginous joint, is a fibrocartilaginous joint. Okay, so this fibrocartilaginous joint is nothing but it's a fibrocartilage. So it consists of fibrocartilage. So this fibrocartilage, it has okay, some functions. So this one actually acts as a ligament, to okay, hold vertebrae together, to hold vertebrae together. So that's one function, and also it allows a slight movement of vertebrae. So it allows a slight movement of vertebrae. I'll just mention here. So it allows a slight movement of vertebrae. Okay, and then it also functions as a shock absorber for spine. So acts as shock, right, absorber for spine. So these are a few functions of this intervertebral disc. Right, so let's move on to the next part, that is the sternum. So the next one we shall see about sternum. So this sternum is also called breastbone, and this consists of three bones. It consists of three bones. So one, it is the manubrium, and second one the body, and the third one the xiphoid process. So now in this picture, okay, so up to here, so this portion is what we call the manubrium, okay, and here this portion, as here it's already mentioned, so this is the body, and okay, so the body will be up to here, and then below this there is a small portion, and this is called the xiphoid process. Okay, so three parts, and out of these three parts we see the body will be the largest. So this will be the largest part of that sternum, and the xiphoid process will be the smallest portion or smallest part, and this is the largest part. Okay, and you will see here, okay, there will be costal notches. So you can see small notches on this manubrium and also on the body. Okay, so these are the costal notches, so where there is attachment of ribs. So wherever I have mentioned here, so these are the points where the ribs get attached. So these are all called, okay, costal notches. They are called costal notches. Okay, and this is a point of attachment of ribs. So it is a point of attachment of ribs. Point of attachment of ribs. Okay, right, and here this is a point where we see there is an attachment of a clavicle, so that's called the collar bone, so it's called clavicular notch. So you find here, okay, so two depressions, so these are called the clavicular notches, and it is a point of attachment of the collarbone. Okay, so right, so that's about these sternum. Okay, so now let's look at the next one, that is ribs. So let's see about ribs. So these ribs are total 12 pairs. So that is 24 ribs are present. So there are total 12 pairs of ribs, and each rib, so each rib, it is, okay, thin, is flat bone, and it is connected dorsally to the vertebral column. So it is connected dorsally to vertebral column. I'll show you the picture. So the dorsal side, okay, where we find the vertebral column, and ventrally to sternum. and ventrally to sternum. So on ventral side it is connected to sternum, and on the dorsal side it is connected to vertebral column. And these ribs are bicephalic. So ribs are bicephalic. So the reason why they are called bicephalic, because they have two articulation surfaces. So they have two articulation surfaces on their dorsal end. So the dorsal end where these ribs will be connected to the vertebral column. Okay, right. Uh, Now we'll see that there are three types of ribs. So types of ribs. So there are, okay, three types. So these three types of ribs will be: one, the true ribs; then the second one, the false ribs. So these false ribs are also called vertebrochondral ribs. Then the third one is called floating ribs. Okay, we'll see these pictures, and from where to where are true ribs, false and floating ribs also we'll see. So right, so here is the ribs. So here the ribs plus vertebral column, and also the sternum. So these three together result in the formation of a rib cage. So the rib cage, it consists of ribs, vertebral column and sternum. So you can see in this case, so this side where the vertebral column is present is the dorsal side. Okay, and the side on which the sternum is present, so this is the ventral side. Okay, and you can see the ribs, okay, connecting, okay, on the dorsal side with the vertebral column, and connecting to the sternum on the ventral side. So now coming to these true ribs, the first seven ribs. So first seven ribs are true ribs. So you can see here the first seven ribs. So 1 to 7. So they are called true ribs because they are directly, okay, attached to sternum, okay, ventrally with the help of hyaline cartilage. Okay, so these true ribs attach directly to sternum, okay, with the help of hyaline cartilage. So here whatever you see, that this blue portion is the hyaline cartilage. So this is hyaline cartilage. Okay, now coming to the next one, false ribs. They are also called vertebrochondral ribs. So these vertebrochondral ribs are, okay, there are around 3 pairs, that is eighth one. Okay, so here I'm sorry, so it's a vertebro, okay, chondral ribs. Eighth one, then the next one is ninth one, then 10th. So these will be total three pairs. Okay, so these three pairs of ribs are called false ribs because they don't, okay, articulate directly with the sternum. So they don't articulate with the sternum directly. So for this reason, okay, so these are called false ribs. Then coming to the floating ribs, okay, so you can see the last ribs are not attached to the sternum, and here the false ribs actually will attach to, you know, the sternum. I mean, not directly, so they actually attach to the seventh rib. So these 8th, ninth, and 10th, the ribs, okay, they attach to seventh rib, okay, of course by the hyaline cartilage. Now the last ones, you can see here, this one, okay, and this one. So these will not attach to the sternum at all, and hence these two are called the floating ribs. These two are called floating ribs. Okay, so I told you that all these, the vertebral column, sternum, and the ribs all together, it results in the formation of rib cage, right? And here I told you that the ribs are bicephalic. So we'll see the picture of ribs that shows this bicephalic condition also. So here you can see this is the rib. You can see the flatness of the rib, and here are two, okay, facets, so articular facets. So this is one, and this is another one. So with this it will be attached to the vertebral column, and on this you can see the costal cartilage, and this with the help of this costal cartilage, it attaches to the sternum. Okay, so because of this two articular facets, the ribs are called bicephalic. Okay, so that's all about the actual skeleton. So now we will see about appendicular skeleton. So the next one we'll see about appendicular skeleton. So the appendicular skeleton, it consists of bones of limbs, and along with the girdles. So that will be the pectoral and pelvic girdles. So there are two girdles in our case. So we have so that's, I'll mention pectoral girdle, so that supports the four limbs, and one more we have is pelvic girdle that supports the hind limbs. So these two, okay, along with the bones of limbs together, it constitutes appendicular skeleton. So now we shall see about these limbs. Okay, so all the four limbs, okay, so where each limb have, okay, 30 bones. So they have 30 bones. So each limb has 30 bones. Okay, and let's see first about the four limbs, right? So whether four limbs or hind limbs, all of them will have 30 bones. So first we'll see about these four limbs and see what are all the bones present in the four limbs. So it has humerus. Okay, so this is one in number. Then there is radius bone, and this is also one in number. Then there is ulna, and this is also one in number. Then we have carpals. Okay, so these are called, okay, wrist bones. So these will be 8 in number. Then another one, the metacarpals. So the metacarpals are the palm bones. So they are palm bones, and they are five in number. And the next one we have is phalanges. So these phalanges, whom we call digits, and they will be okay, total 14 in number. So here one point is the thumb. So this thumb, we call it pollex. The thumb is called pollex. Okay, so let's see the picture of this forelimb. So right, let's see about this forelimb. So here the part what we see, so this one is humerus, okay. And here, okay, so we have two bones below the elbow region. So this forms this joint, okay, will be the elbow joint, and below that you have two bones here, okay. So of course this side, this is okay, the thumb, and this is the little finger, right. And here the bones what we have, so one, so on this side, okay, towards the thumb side will be radius. So this is the radius bone, and onto this side is ulna, okay. So we have the radius towards the thumb side, and the ulna towards the little finger side. So now if you see coming to the, you know, the palm and the wrist, so here these are the wrist bones. So here are wrist bones, okay. And coming to this palm and digits, we will see one more picture. So here is the palm. So here all these bones what we see, these are all wrist bones, okay. And then coming to the pollex, so here this is the thumb, call it pollex, okay. And here you see this portion, so all these bones, okay, so they will form the metacarpals. So you can see these are all the metacarpal bones, okay. So they will be the form, okay, bones. Now after these palm bones, you see the phalanges. So this is the pollex or the thumb. So this thumb has only two phalanges, 1 and 2. Coming to the index finger, it has three phalanges, 1, 2 and 3. And the middle finger also has three phalanges, so 1, 2 and 3. And coming to the ring finger, it also has 1, 2 and 3. The last little finger also have three phalanges, okay. So 4, 3 is 12 plus 2, so the total you have 14 phalanges, okay. So that's all about the, you know, forelimb, okay. So here one more point, I'll just mention this ulna is slightly, okay, bigger than radius. It is slightly bigger than radius, okay. And the humerus, this one is the biggest out of all these, okay, radius, ulna, whatever the bones that are present in the forelimb. So out of all the bones in the forelimb, this humerus will be the right bigger one, okay. So not in the body. So in the body we have femur, the strongest and longest, so that we will see it later. So okay, so this is all about the forelimb. Now let's look at the hind limb. So the next one are the bones of hind limbs. So coming to this bones of hind limbs, we have here in the hind limbs a femur. This is we call it thigh bone. Okay, so this thigh bone is 1 in number. So as I said, this is the longest and strongest bone in the entire body. Then there is tibia. So below the knee we have these two bones, just like how we have seen in case of forelimb below the elbow joint, the radius and ulna. In the same way, in the hind limbs also there will be two bones below the knee. So tibia, the next one is fibula, so it is also 1 in number. Then we have is tarsals, so these are called the ankle bones, and these ankle bones will be 7 in number. Then we have the metatarsals, these are 5 in number. And then the phalanges, so these phalanges are totally 14 in number. So in this case, the first toe is what we call the hallux. So there the first finger we call it pollex. In this case it is okay hallux. And then we have one more is the patella. So this is the kneecap, and this one is 1 in number. So total in case of hind limbs also you will be having 30 bones. Okay, so now let's see the picture of this hind limb. So let's see here the hind limbs here. So when we see this ilium pubis and ischium, so these are all the parts of pelvic girdle that we'll see it later when we study about the girdles. Now coming to here, so this is the femur. So this portion, okay, so from here to here, okay, is the right, the femur, the longest and the strongest bone. And you can see a small bone, so this is the patella, the kneecap. Okay, and okay, so this is the knee, and below the knee you find two bones, okay, the tibia and the fibula. Okay, so in this case the tibia is stronger when compared to this fibula. Okay, so that fibula will be towards the the last toe, and the tibia will be towards the first toe. Okay, here I'll show you another picture, the bones in the foot. So it is the okay picture. So this is the foot of left leg, and you can see in this case, so these all will form okay the ankle bones. So these are all the ankle bones, okay, which I call them here the tarsals, so which will be total okay 7 in number. And now here comes the next one. So these are called the metatarsals. So these are metatarsals. Okay, and coming to the phalanges, you can see in this case this is toe. So this is the okay, I mean first toe. Okay, so that is the hallux. Okay, hallux. And you can see in this case there are two phalanges, 1 and 2, and the next toe, so 1 2 and 3, again 1 2 and 3, you can see here 1 2 and 3, and again 1 2 and 3, that is the last toe. Okay, so these are in case of foot. Okay, so that what we see here. So as here this portion is not clear, I have shown you here with the tarsals, the metatarsals. Okay, so you have the metatarsals total 5 in number. So this is 1 2 3, this is 4 and 5. Okay, right. So this is about the bones present in the hind limbs. Now let's look at the girdles. So we'll see about girdles. So coming to the girdles, I told you that there are two girdles. Okay, one, it is pectoral girdle. Okay, and another one called pelvic girdle. Okay, so this pectoral girdle will help in articulation of upper limbs, whereas the pelvic girdle will help in articulation of lower limbs, Okay, so now let's see each of these girdle. And one more point here, each girdle is actually made up of two halves. Okay, so right, so each girdle is formed of two halves, right? So first let's see the pectoral girdle. So this pectoral girdle, as I said, okay, this will also have two halves. So each half of the pectoral girdle, so each half of the pectoral girdle, so it consists of one, it's called clavicle. So this is what we call the collar bone. Okay, and this is a long slender bone. We'll see later the diagram. So long slender bone, it will be with two curvatures. Long slender bone with two curvatures. The next one we have is scapula. So this scapula is a triangular flat bone. It is a triangular flat bone. Okay, so that is situated on the dorsal part of the thorax, and this is present on, okay, so dorsal side of thorax, and this one will be extending from second to seventh rib. So extend from second to seventh rib. It extends from second to seventh rib. Okay, so right, the scapula, so I said it has a clavicle and scapula. So this scapula also has a slightly elevated ridge, and that we call it spine. So it has a spine, is a slightly elevated ridge. It's a slightly elevated ridge. Okay, and that slightly elevated ridge, as I told, that it's called spine, and this spine will be projecting as flat and expanded process. So that is what we call acromion. Okay, so as a acromion. So I'll show you this in the picture. So here below the acromion we have a cavity. Okay, so below this a cavity is present. So that cavity is called the glenoid cavity. Is called glenoid cavity. It is in this into this glenoid cavity the head of the humerus fits in, and that forms a ball and socket type of joint. So let's see the picture of this right uh, the girdle. So here is the pectoral girdle. So you can see I told there are two halves. Here I'm showing only one side of it. So you have here is, okay, so this is one side, okay, and this is another side. So it has two halves, and here this is the bone, okay, from this point to this point. So this is what we call it clavicle. So this clavicle is also called the collar bone, okay, right. And here on the dorsal side you can see a bone. So you can see here one triangular bone you are able to see, okay, so this one, right. So this is what we call it the okay, the what you call the scapula here, okay. You can see here this is called scapula, right. And the clavicle, so I told you that the pectoral bone, the pectoral girdle, it consists of clavicle and a scapula. So you can see here this is the scapula here, okay, and this is the clavicle, right. And on the dorsal side of that you may find this spine. And coming to this acromion process, so here is the acromion process. So this is acromion process, okay, and this one is called the coracoid process. And below this you find a cavity, that's what we call it the glenoid cavity. So you can see, okay, so this is the glenoid cavity, and fitting into this glenoid cavity is the head of humerus. So this is humerus, okay. So here this portion is the acromion. So you can see a small elevation, this is the acromion process, to which you can see the attachment of the clavicle. So on that other side you find the the coracoid process, and below that you have is a glenoid cavity. So here I cannot show that cavity because already humerus has fitted into that glenoid cavity. The head of the humerus is already in its position, okay, into that glenoid cavity. So here is another picture. So I'm showing the scapula here, okay, so no clavicle. So this one is scapula, okay, so that a triangular flat bone. This side is the dorsal or posterior surface. So this is the dorsal side, okay, and this is the ventral side of that scapula. On the dorsal side you can see this okay, a ridge like. So this is what I call it the spine, okay, and this is the okay portion, so what I call it acromion process. And here you can see slightly the okay, the coracoid process, so that is not seen properly on the dorsal side. And coming to the ventral side you can see that coracoid process very clearly. So this is the coracoid process, right, and this is the acromion process. and I said below that you will find a cavity. So this is what we call the glenoid cavity. Fitting into the glenoid cavity is the head of a humerus. Okay, right. So that's all about the pectoral girdle. So we'll see the pelvic girdle in the next session.